A lot of information. What?
All right. Always the sloppy intro due to the way it works. All right. Whoa, it's the illusion reporting from somewhere on spaceship Earth. We're here with our guest host, Laurie, today. Welcome, Laurie.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Hamish. Hi, Hamish audience. I'm like thrilled to be here.
All right. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I have some important information, but the legal stuff is next level.
All right. Let me make sure that we're how's the sound, everybody? How we doing on that level before we get kicking here? There's a little bit of a lag. So Laurie's here. She's it's one of those people that's digging into our legal sovereignty. And
yeah,
he's gonna hit you with some data, some information. Just know on this one, we're not offering any advice. We're just here to inform. And sounds good. All right, go, Laurie. Where we got clearance that we sound okay.
All right. So I just want to start with, again, thank you for having me. And my journey started, I've been sort of a truther for many, many years, but I was kind of behind the scenes and I never did live stuff. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not a YouTuber, which is good because YouTube is infested just like Facebook. So it's a different kind of infestation. But the point is, so back in 2020, I created what was called the Truth Telethon. And I brought over 30 guests into the first show. And Max Egan, I wish I had known you better, Hamish, but didn't really. I was watching you, but not like I am now.
Dude, can you wait, hold on. So you have direct contact with Max Egan?
I did, yeah, I did. Yeah, I got him on the show. I wrote him.
Let's get him on this show. I've been following Max Egan, dude, since before he went to Palestine. I guess what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, he would go on your show. He does a lot of shows. I wrote everyone individually and I put together a really good lineup. I had Harry Box on my show. And,
I got some questions for Max. I really do. Yeah, I want to know about the blue beam. Remember when Max got hit with the blue beam the other year, right before all this began? Yeah.
Well, I have some concerns about the truth movement in general at this point, but I had Ole Demigod on. I mean, it was great, but I don't want to belabor what happened to me, but into the second show, I brought two people in. I brought in a co-host. I literally put the whole thing together myself. And my co-host stole the show from out from underneath me and started his own show. And I'm only saying that but because I went through a very, very, a lot of people throwing a lot of shit at me that I was like, where is this all coming from? It was a very, very dark situation for me. It was a spiritual attack. I'm fine now. I've come out the other side doing completely different things. But at the time, working so hard to put this show together, to have it stolen, it was very ugly what happened to me, is what I'm going to say. And people were coming out and saying she's that whole narcissist. They were mirroring me, and no one knew who was who. And so I just had to walk away from, whatever people thought about me. I don't care. I know what I did, and I know it was my show, and that's that. It is what it is.
Well, that's funny. When we were talking about there is no more truth community anymore. It's the obvious. It's now the obvious community. The truth hustle is over because it's all obvious now. And I think maybe you can reflect on this a minute. Is the truth community's hustle was selling and digging into how to get to the truth, and we have the truth and you need to look here. Now it's the obvious. So the truth community isn't a necessary reality anymore. It's super obvious. So that I think that there's a desperation to grab a hold of the last bit of interest-bearing currency as the truth community fades into the background and the obvious community takes over.
Yeah, Hamish and I are starting the obvious movement. And as much as I like Max Egan, don't get me wrong, it has nothing to do with like or dislike. But from David Icke to whoever it is, like to me, it's just repetitive. Nothing new is coming out. We're at a point where it's solution time, it's game time. And,
agreed.
To me, it's nothing new it's the same old talk. So I got out, whatever way it happened to me through my own spiritual journey. I moved into the law, which Hamish, if you would tell me that I would be interested in the law about a year ago, I would say, what, like boring, I'm not gonna read legal documents, So the fact that I'm writing affidavits and reading legal documents, this conversation has many different points to it. It's learning the truth about how we're living in the color of law and how literally everything has been hijacked. But going through this alone, I live by myself, I moved, my children are grown. So everyone has different scenarios. You have children and we're all going through it. So being alone I haven't been alone ever, between raising my children and being married. So to be this alone at this time has been really challenging. Like everyone's going through their challenges. I listened to my best friend who has 4 little kids and children, not kids, children. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm happier I'm alone, I don't know. But it's a struggle. We're all in it. We're all in it together at different levels.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I was talking when I had Chris Dyer on, I was asking him about that as being alone during this thing. Cause one of the things that really keeps me sort of on point is that I have other people that I have to show up for. There's no days off. There's no retreating back to the comfort of like, I don't feel like it today. It's true. It's all on. So I get it. It's so you've turned that into doing this work you do.
Yeah. You also get hugs and kisses. And I saw this all coming in 2019 and I fled the East Coast. And I'm now in Texas. And I got this, the great thing about you is I never really considered I don't think I was a spiritual person. I grew up in New York, wealthy Jewish New York, and all the stereotypes are true. And we didn't have any really religion. You were just Jewish, secular, and I didn't even know about the spiritual side of myself until all of this hit, and all this solitude and what we've all been going through. I'm going to maybe choke up a little bit because it's been a brutal journey, not having anyone to hug, and I don't have friends here, and I've really, of course, they divided us. I'm a loner somewhat to begin with, but I didn't expect to be this alone.
Yeah.
This is like a whole nother level. In zombie Austin, Yeah.
You're in a tough town too. It's the Los Angeles of Texas.
Yeah, I just kind of walk around. I'm like, hey, how's the pool? How's your drink? And I keep to myself.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
So I'm just giving you a little background. So, I've become my first real intuition set in to get out of the East Coast, and to flee cross country was a huge monumental move. And we have to give ourselves credit for these bold moves that we're taking. These are bold moves that we have to make now. And what I've come into is my power as a woman with a brain that I haven't used to its fullest capacity. And I am smarter and sharper than I've ever been.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, I think that's an interesting point for this time. It's you've either used it to sharpen your steel, or you've just crumpled like an aluminum can and just fallen in line with this obviously corrupt and broken system and narrative that's hijacked many a people into this time. So good for you. Bravo.
Yeah, and I'm saying that because if I can inspire people, guys, I'm all by myself. I'm an older woman. I come from a narcissistic family. I lost most of my money, and I'm living on the edge, and I've never lived on the edge before. And I want to tell you something. I always had money, right? But when I had money, I never thought I had money. So now that I don't have money, I lost, with all this that's happened, I've lost my alimony, I've lost my income. But do you know the fear of not having money is the exact same fear that I had when I had $500,000 in the bank. It's whether it's 1,000 or 500,000, I had literally the same level of fear, which I found very interesting.
Oh yeah. That's one of the great. I remember. I don't know if you've heard the story. I tell the story when I was first getting sober. I was talking to my spiritual advisor. I was like, I just need 10 grand to get like whatever I got going. Need to get going. YouTube was started, and I need 10 grand. I said, I'm talking to my spiritual advisor. I'm looking up in my closet, and I have a shoebox that's got 15 grand in it. And I had this aha moment of like, oh, I'm not even, it's not the money that's tripping me up. What is tripping me up here? And it kind of did the same thing that you're doing. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're broken rich. If you're broken poor. It's fix yourself.
I felt the exact same fear every single month. The time I've wasted in fear. The time I have wasted, the money, I call it the money program. We're all in a program. We all have our programs. My money program, growing up the way I did, was so deep. And money is the Jewish God. You know that. Everyone knows that.
What? Yeah.
I people will call me a self-hating Jew. It's okay.
Well,
but they can't call me anti-Semitic. And then I say, well, I'm Jewish. Well, then I become a self-hating Jew. So you know what? I have a gay daughter, trans partner. I got it all. You can't call me anything. I don't take any labels.
I think that's what's funny. I was talking about that with Jesse Lee Peterson the other day. Was like, when you know who you are, they can't call you any names that are going to get you off the track. Like, you're not going to walk up to me and say anything. I know who I am. So it's good to know who you are.
I mean, I love my children. I mean, I love my Jewish friends, but let me just tell you something. The Jewish communities, they fell for it again. They walked themselves right back into it. So that's another story. But that's, everyone walked themselves into this. So you know what? We got a long haul walking our way out.
Well, that's what gets us here, right? Is people are either walking into the fire or backing away slowly from the fire, because there's obviously a giant structure fire going on. And it's an interesting thing. Is I called a friend of mine last night, one of my old campaign managers, and I hadn't talked to her in maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And I was like, so what's going on? And she went in, she was like, so like animated about what was going on. And it was nice to talk to her, because I was like, she's an older, like, her and her husband are like super legit people. I don't know what that really means, but you know, I'm a surfer. I'm still a child at heart, right? Like they're
dude, me too.
They're full-blown adults, you know what I mean? Like real adults. And but it was funny talking to her, like, about just like, no, we're not crazy. It seems to be sometimes that, like, is this really, like, for real? Are we overreacting? Is this really happening? Like, so what's going on? And it's nice to always kind of bump into someone that you haven't talked to from a while and just be like, they're like, dude, the house is on fire, man. Like,
well, all my old friends are sailing right into it. So my conversations are, when are you getting a job? When are you getting a job? When are you getting your vaccine? When are you getting a job? When are you getting a vaccine? So it's like, all right, listen, gotta go. I can't, I gotta get free of the system. I got bigger things to do.
Bigger things to do. And so that's why we started talking, and we wanted to get you on here is because there are bigger things to do. And when you reached out to me, it was one of my more powerful, like, I think, live streams, when I started getting into the whole divine spark and the this how we've been hoodwinked with this paperwork, so to speak, and that we put the paperwork between us and God, and we've allowed this to be a valid excuse not to reach deep into our divinity. And for me, is this realization of that the birth certificate, sort of this totem that we've idolatried as, like, this is when we came into existence. And when you go back to the divine spark, you get your divinity back. And that's when you reached out to me. So that was from that time on, from that live stream, that it really has universally changed for me what I've been doing and what's been going on here, because that started this whole thing. And which I think we just had Murky Forgotten from Seattle on, like, the other hour. Like, totally different vibe, totally different trip. He's planting seeds, you're planting your different kinds of seeds. So
I think that's what it's all about now. I think that the truth movement went from this big movement of talk, and we now know what's going on. And now, it's weeding through the real heartfelt people that are ready to, go into the unknown and to take on the challenge. And we all have different skills. And I think this is the way, I'm done with listen, I have very little patience for people that aren't taking action. That's just how it's my personality. It's not judgment. It's just, I gave my energy away once heavily, and I'll never give it away again. Because it's too valuable. It's too valuable. So it's got to go to the people that you can feel the difference now. You guys, you see it. I don't know how many people are watching, but you see who's fake and who's real now. If you can see it, I can.
Yeah, it's very much the actions speak louder than word time. It's like you're either showing up and there's no need for excuses because you're showing up, or you're not. And then there's just excuses. So as a person of action, I think what we would kind of talked about is sort of just laying out the ground, like the basics of what you're doing. And for many people, maybe give an overview of kind of what you're doing, and then we'll zoom in on sort of some base terminology and kind of build from there. And then people can, if they want, start doing their own work. So what exactly is it that you're up to and you're focusing on right now?
So let me make this very clear. I am new to the law. I've been at it, but I am literally putting in like 8 or 9 hours a day, every day of searching for the knowledge, writing affidavits. I'm no legal scholar, but I'll tell you something. I got a talent for this shit. So what people have to understand is, and a lot of, even in the truth movement, People do not understand that the entire legal system has been hijacked. Just like everything else is upside down, the legal system is completely inverted. And the way they did the hijacking, I'm going to give you a few dates. Now, I watched a YouTube video just this afternoon, and they were laughing about, what was he laughing about? Oh, was he laughed? Oh, that the United States is a corporation. He's like, oh yeah, and this woman thinks the United States is a corporation. And I'm like, dude, the United States is a corporation. So we're starting with the basics that people, if you go and you like, Google it, Wikipedia, they always give you the inversion. Everything shows you the inversion. The fact of the matter is the whole system has been hijacked, and we are the creditors, and all the debt collectors are the debtors. They have us thinking we are the debtors. We are the creditors. There's so much to get here. There's a conversion of the spiritual journey with the reality of the situation. And Hamish, this is where I would love to see you go. And would love to help you, because it is very spiritual to do this work, because I am writing CEOs of Chase Bank, the credit bureaus, major corporations. I'm sending off affidavits to Janet Yellen at the IRS. You have to be ready with this move. You have to feel it in your soul. So you can copy and paste certain affidavits because the fraud is the same. What makes it somewhat simplistic is the fraud is all the same. So what we have to start recognizing, and what people have to start, if they really want to get on this journey from here on in, everything is consent, contracts and consent. We are operating in the commercial. All right. Are people like watching? Are they enjoying this, Hamish?
Well, we'll let it all suss out.
Okay.
So, before we get going, the consent thing we talk a lot about here, it's all consent. So when you say commercial contract, what exactly are you in reference? Like, how would you explain that for someone who's new to this? Like, what does that mean to them?
Okay, so what happened was in 1871, I'm going to just give you a few dates, okay? The United States became a corporation, okay? They turned us into a corporation. So instead of living in common law, like natural man and woman, they invented in 1933, they came out with the birth certificate, okay? That's very recent. They started up the birth certificate in I believe it was 1933, okay? So what they did is, because we went broke, because there was no money, they turned us all into commercial property with the invention of the birth certificate. So the United States became a corporation. We're no longer a country. So they moved us from operating in a private capacity with the birth certificate. We were moved into commercial. We were taken out of the private realm and we were moved into commerce.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. It sounds crazy, but it is the truth. So what happened in 1933 under Roosevelt is that HGR 192, a law was passed, and they took all of the gold and silver. They took all the gold and silver. So what they did was, with fiat Federal Reserve notes, because they took all the gold and silver, they said everything would be prepaid. everything that we do, from energy to your car to your credit cards, they would be indebted to us as the creditor. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah.
So that what it was supposed to be was a promissory note to pay, because they had all the gold and silver and we didn't have gold and silver. So fiat, Federal Reserve notes, was supposed to be a promissory note. But they created the birth certificate and they flipped it. And we didn't know. And so they turned us into, and the banksters from underneath us, they made us the creditor, the debtor, and they made themselves the creditor. But that's
Okay.
not what it is. So with the birth certificate, and there is a barcode on the birth certificate. It's in, as you know, the all caps letter, which is the fictitious name that they gave us. And what it did is it gave them power of attorney over our lives. We became slaves.
Sure.
Is that clear?
Yep.
So we literally, and again, unbeknownst to us, but this is where the consent started. This is how deep consent is, because we gave consent by giving our children and ourselves birth certificates. No one should ever have a birth certificate ever again.
Sure.
Again.
No, that's again, that's the.
So I'm trying to keep it as simple. That's the nuts and bolts.
Well, it's interesting. It is a consent trickery system, right? So,
right.
And I've been when I think about it, right? When I get into it, it's very obvious once you round the corner. Someone just mentioned Jordan Maxwell. Is like this isn't something new, but it's caught up to us in our time, and I'm convinced that part of what's going on is they've shut down the system to bury all of this with. That's why you
absolutely. And listen, there's a difference between knowing about it and doing the work. Let me tell you something. This is not lightweight stuff. This is very extensive paperwork to get out of this mess.
Sure.
Very extensive.
Sure.
It's so extensive that it's mind-blowing extensive. Because what they've done is they've created a whole new constitution of commercial codes, statutes, millions of statutes, codes, and laws to move this commercial system. And so we're tied down into all these rules, regulations that are not the law. That's called color of law.
Okay.
So none of the statutes, codes, everything is down to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence, and it's been hijacked. And with all these millions of codes and statutes, and they bury, it's brilliant. It is actually brilliant. It's brilliant.
No, that I think the level of what they've piled onto us is truly amazing, right? It's they buried us with paperwork. We used to do that when we were forest activists. Like, it was all about burying it with building as much paperwork as you can to flood the system, but they've just buried us in statutes and legalese and books full of laws
And attorneys.
So let me ask you this.
Oh my God, I have 20% left on my phone.
You better plug it in.
I got to move around a little bit.
20% should get us there. We can have a part two. Let's
okay.
Let the universe flow it.
Okay.
So
we're buried under statutes, codes, and laws. Okay. And then they do the whole fear thing. Attorneys are the biggest, obviously, they write all this shit, and people need to understand that all the CPS, every bit of any kind of jails, courts, everything that they put people in jail for. The only thing that, according to original law, is no one should do harm and act in honor are the only things that we should be living by. But instead, with this, it's called the UCC, Universal Commercial Code. They now take your children because everyone is monetized. Every bit of it is a financial grab. And when you go into a courtroom, I'm not going to say none of them work, but I'm going to say a very, very high percentage, you're walking yourself into your demise.
Well, I think that what I've seen from this thing, and I follow a fair amount of what's going on with this thing is, and this is where we talked before about this thing is yes, this system of the Universal Commercial Code, all these statutes, all this paperwork buried that we've been buried under, right? All this legalese and court systems and chaos and the whole thing. But when you get down to it, right, there's just, like you said, there's two things. There's the do no harm and the honor and system of honor, right? And so when we sit at this thing, I know there's a certain, where are we trying to go on a certain level? Like from what I understand, and what I don't know if you're in agreement with this, is once we have sovereignty with God, do we even care about any of this stuff? And I don't mean that flippantly.
Absolutely 150%, especially with the vaccine mandates, in my opinion, because the bottom line is you can, I don't know, we're in the unknown, but right now we are owned by that birth certificate. And even all the bills, and they're just gonna keep ramping it up. So you can get out from underneath bills, but the bottom line, Hamish, is that they look at us as dead. I almost think we're not even dealing with good versus evil. I think we're dealing with aliens versus humans. I really think we're an alien, we're amongst aliens. That's just my little thing. But it doesn't matter.
I think you hit on to something where a lot of people struggle with. I don't think it's a good versus evil either, but I think that it's dimensional, right? Like it's good versus evil in the sense of the lower dimensional beings are trapped here, and by their very nature, they don't have good because that's a higher dimensional consciousness, right? And so, yeah, the whole thing seems to be a construct to keep us stuck in their lower dimensional realm, to use us basically as fuel, from what I can tell.
We're chattel. We're chattel by law.
Well, that's
they say, and we have to take responsibility as adults and as humans on this planet. That, hey, I had a good old time. I haven't had a drink in 8 months. I stopped drinking and all this too.
Good for you.
And, so if I can do these things, you guys, I'm just saying that if I can do it, anyone can do it. And your superpowers do come out. I realize I'm an excellent writer. I have very good writing skills. I know how to read legal documents, and I didn't know I had it in me. But God wanted us, in my opinion, to use our brains and to use what we have. And you need to, they see you as dead. So you can spiritually know you have God, but it really is.
So let me hold you up on that. They see you as dead. So what is that? What is that? Like wrap us around that concept a little bit deeper. Like when they see us as dead, what is that? What exactly does that mean if you're new to all of this?
Well, with the birth certificate, I'm just going to be real basic about it, but they put us into what's called admiralty law. and they look at us with the birth certificate. They've inverted. It's so weird. It's so weird. Like all the language, like birthing at a dock, they took us and we with the birth certificate, like our parents claim we were dead at sea. So we have to prove that we're alive. It's really bizarre. We have to tell them, no, I'm alive. I'm here. I'm the living, breathing man and woman. We have to let them know that we're alive.
Sure.
And it literally is a paperwork thing to tell them we are alive. What we've done is we've given them, with our birth certificate, they become our power of attorney.
Okay.
So in paperwork, some of the documents I've signed that I'm submitting is I'm making myself, the living woman, Laurie Suzuki, power of attorney over the all caps fictitious name. Like they're using that name and that we have unlimited credit on that name. It's almost like, it sounds really strange, but that is what's going on. So we have to let them know. It's like, no, you can use, you will have your birth certificate and your all caps name. In that birth certificate is unlimited credit. Now, I can't explain all this. This is deep shit. But I know people who are secure creditors, and it's called being a secure creditor. That takes a lot of work, a lot of knowledge. I had to dig, I had to pay, I had to search out this knowledge because it's very extensive. But it's literally like you are making you in charge of your own affairs. The state no longer is in charge of that fictitious person they created.
Sure, I see that as
the best way I can explain it.
Well, it's fractal, right? Like it's like when you go inward and discover that you are not your self-talking mind, right? The being inside of you observing your thoughts is who is your spiritual self. And then there's the fictitious person inside of yourself, which is your self-talking mind that identifies, that knows you, that's the thing. And so then on the outside layer, right, there's this fictitious identity that they've based upon all this on. And it's kind of interesting. I see it a little bit clearer now with that.
It gets more clear with every day that you do the work. So what Hamish, the point is that what I'm doing is moving from commercial into private. It doesn't mean you can't still operate in commercial, because you made a point yesterday that, you know what, it's easier for me to have my license, to register my car, and to a certain point, you know what, until I'm ready, I'm there too. But there's going to be a point where I'm not going to register my car anymore. And so that's just one offshoot. There's so many, everything. And then what you do, and this is how the people of wealth operate. You have an irrevocable trust.
Okay.
And then once you do this, you move everything, your car, your children. This is knowledge, you guys. I'm giving you knowledge. You move everything into your irrevocable trust, and they can't touch it. It's like ironclad. And that's what the wealthy do.
I got you.
And yes, taxes are voluntary. So this is all in your mind. When you realize that you're the creditor and you get out of the fear, taxes are voluntary.
Sure, no, I get taxes are voluntary. Like,
yeah, you don't just ignore things. When I
that goes back to what the thing is there's the do no harm and be in honor. To ignore things is to be in dishonor, right?
It's also silence is acquiescence.
Yes, it's viewed as consent. Because I've been on, that's where I've gone with this stuff with the mandates down here in the public forum at City Hall is to put them in that linchpin of you can't not make your point clear because your point is this, because
If you wanted to go to the next level, Hamish, I'm telling you right now, you go, I'm just giving you an idea because this is the way to go, people, and you will win. Whether it be with your job, it's the Tom Barnett. You know, you gotta move around like Tom Barnett. So the point is, you put that principle, you can find an affidavit is the highest document of truth. You don't need an attorney. You get it notarized. And I've been writing my own affidavits. You don't need an attorney. It is the highest notice of truth. You go to a principal and you say, Mr. Smith, you're personally liable. And you watch what these people do. When this comes from the deepest parts of your body. If I was at a job right now and they told me I had to have it, they would get an affidavit. My boss would get an affidavit of notice of liability. They are on personal notice and they will be sued personally. Personally. They don't care about the corporation.
That's where it seems to be like,
that's the
where
power.
Well, that's where I think that there's a level of where the system's, like, from what I can tell, is 100% bluffing because they can't actually do what they're doing. And if enough people understand this, if they push too hard, they don't really have. Let me see if I'm correct.
But you can have your own personal win. You don't have to go with anyone. You know what I'm saying? Like at a certain point, don't wait for anyone. You do these. I'm doing all these things all by my little old self. Okay?
Sure. No, I get that. What I'm getting at is, let me see if I'm off base with this, but they're because their whole thing's a bluff. Like, when underneath the things, like, we have still, as creations of God's divinity, we have still, unbeknownst to ourselves, retained our own authority. Like, we've been bluffed out of granting them this by this piece of paper, right? Let's call it the birth certificate to start there. We have this piece of paper and we acknowledge it as truth, right? And the whole thing seems to stem from this whole, if I'm getting the gist of this, is the minute you begin to all right, let me ask you this. The trust, right? You say to make a trust of your, what is it? The trust of yourself, or?
It's an irrevocable trust.
Irrevocable.
It's very intense. That's very high level.
So, and this is where I bump into this a little bit. And we've talked about this before, where I go, well, my irrevocable trust is with my Lord and Savior. Like, there is, I acknowledge, and I get where we were going. We're just talking here,
Yeah.
is by acknowledging them through their own system, does that not bind you by their system, right? You get what I'm saying? Is by making I'm already an irrevocable trust. I'm God's perfect creation, granted all authority according to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, according to the Bible and all of this, right? So when I go and begin to do affidavits and paperwork and do all that, am I not lowering my dimensional status back down into the 3 dimensions and the 5 senses by doing that?
It's the opposite. When I do an affidavit, I write Laurie Suzuki, the living, breathing woman of God.
But I guess what I'm asking is this: is who is that for?
So your question is valid, but honestly, given that we're in war, you'll be praying to God a lot. I'm praying to God and doing the paperwork.
No. I get what you're saying. I'm talking more.
But this is what you want to be doing. Well, there's many different levels. Like, if people, I'm strapped, my money is tight and I'm sick of giving it to these vampire people that don't deserve it. It's my money. It's my estate. So you can start even on a basic level with your bills, and you start disputing your bills. So there's all different levels of taking back your own control and giving them a big fuck you. Fuck it, Chase Bank. Fuck you. Here's my New York self. Fuck you. And guess what? They didn't answer my third affidavit.
No.
So guess what? Silence is acquiescence, Chase Bank. I'll get you eventually.
So no, but what I'm getting is, hey, everyone on the chat, like I'm gonna invoke no all caps. That's viewed as yelling on this channel. So anyone who's all capping, final warning. Like I'll just have Marie delete you. So please no all capping. Even praising G. Yeah. So there's only one rule here. There's two. Marie Logan, thank you. So let me ask you this, and I'm trying
to empower people, not upset them.
Yeah. No, well, people don't want to be empowered. I think we know.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this.
Sure.
And I want to just drill into this a little bit because I think this is where a lot of this realm discussion gets, where I find it very fascinating. And I want to go back to the trust thing again. So when you're filing the affidavit, right, and you're going, I am irrevocable trust, right? You're filing an affidavit.
Wait, that has nothing to do with the irrevocable trust. That's like a separate sidebar.
Okay, wait. So all right, there, let's clarify that up. So the irrevocable trust as its own thing, correct? Mm-hmm. What is this? Is it a piece of paper you're sending? Is there someone you're sending this to? Is this, or are you
the irrevocable trust is for myself. It's not
inside
for
yourself.
Else. It's my own self. So it's for my own. It's like having a will, a trust. It has nothing to do with the bill section and the affidavit writing.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, I get that it's separate from the bill stuff. What I'm getting at is when the irrevocable trust, is this a piece of legal paperwork you're generating?
Yes, but not through a lawyer. No, I'm authenticating it. I'm sending it off
to who?
To the Treasury, to certain departments. It goes to specific places.
Okay. No,
sorry, I left that out. It's got to go. You got to send your documents. So there's a lot of dotting your I's and crossing your T's.
So one of the things that I understand from my own.
Not the trust. The trust doesn't go to anyone. The trust remains yours.
You are
the power of attorney and all these other things have to be sent out because you're giving them notice that you're alive and you're taking back your estate.
No, I get all that. So what I'm getting at is this thing is, what is the irrevocable trust? I understand it's me, but I
have 10% left.
Okay. Is all right, then that's perfect because we'll have more questions. So the irrevocable trust, right? Is that something I'm spiritually acknowledging, or is it something that I'm generating in this lower dimensional realm?
You're generating it. It's a document.
Okay, it's a document. All right, that's what I was getting to. And now that document, is that document for me, or is that document for somebody else?
It's for you.
It's for me. I just have it for myself. It's
only you. You never share that with anyone. That's yours.
That's my personal piece of paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
many pages.
So what I'm getting at is that's interesting. So that's me to shove in my filing cabinet, keep in my safe, whatever.
Right, but you could put your children in the trust. It's very powerful stuff.
So if that piece of paperwork is only for me, why do I even need to make it?
It's I'm not quite there yet, so I don't want to speak of exactly what I don't, because I'm still tying together how the documents all tie together. But what it does is you're taking things out of the commercial. There's other things in there too that I can't get into. We could talk about.
No, for me, I think where I'm trying to stay with this a little bit is this is where I've gained a certain amount of where I've noticed the energy field shift a little bit. Is this lower dimensional realm of the three dimensions and the five senses? It's this it's fictitious by its very nature, right? Because it's made up of electromagnetic energy. This cup's not solid. It's just in a temporary state of existence right here. Just like a piece of paper, just like ones and zeros in a computer mainframe. These are all temporary states of electromagnetic energy at this time and space. So when I think about these, what I was getting you with the question with the thing is, do we not inadvertently maybe attach ourselves back to the lower dimensional, 3-dimensional, 5 sense realm with this paperwork? And
I think that's a personal decision. I know for me, like that's just a personal call.
No, I'm not talking about like on the personal. I'm talking more of the theoretical of what we're doing, because you're digging into this thing in their system, because it's their system, right? Like,
yeah, but we're using it for ourselves now. We're flipping it around. We're taking it back. This is the ultimate
okay.
of our power.
No, and this is what I one of the things that goes back to the truther thing. What are we trying to take back? That's I guess the question.
We're trying to. Everything is prepaid. It should all be ours. Like the phone, all forms of communication, it's legal, it's binding, it's all ours. We shouldn't have to even pay any of the bills. Like, it's powerful stuff. And we would be living more freely. We're just so, we're paying for all this stuff. It's ours. We are the creditor. They owe it to us. They made it ours under Roosevelt. But they hijacked it back. Does that?
And I totally get where you're going. And I don't
know if I'm answering. I'm trying.
No, because this is a tricky question, and where I'm going with this thing, and again, as I get it on a level, but what I'm asking is from my perspective, right? From it already is all mine, because God told me that I'm not a renter on this planet, right? So what I'm fascinating having this conversation with you about this is because if I'm already not a renter according to my divinity with God, right? Who's to say this isn't all mine? Who's doing, like, I get that they've made me into a bill of lading with my birth. I get their legal trickery, right? They made up this birth certificate with some dumb law, and they've used the admiralty law and Black's law and all this stuff to create this thing. Right. And I go, for me, I get where you're going, and I'm fully like on board, but I'm just, for me as an inquisitive human being, what is their standing versus my Lord and Savior standing? What standing do they have on this lower dimensional realm that Jesus Christ didn't clear up for me on the cross?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
Right. It's like, that's a good question, right?
I think it's, if we, people are going to jail. They're having their children taken. There's so much going on that if we don't take more of a role in the in the 3D of what's really going on, it's well, no,
and I'm with you on what you're doing, and I'm not trying to I'm really having like a metaphysical conversation with, because I find it fascinating. So when I was you got enough time on what's your little?
I was at 10%. I guess will tell me when I'm at 5. I could plug it in, but I'm just gonna have to maneuver.
Why don't you plug it in? We don't want to lose our thing right here, because we're onto something I find fascinating.
Okay. I'm all game for still talking. I just have a very short plug here. Okay. And who knows?
You got to get the 8-foot cords.
God, look at me. I'm so antiquated. I have no money for new cords.
I get it, dude. I get it.
I'm like, I'm doing the best I can in this life. Let me see. I think it's in there. Wait, not yet. Hang on. This is embarrassing. Hang on, guys. This is so embarrassing. Whatever, we're all friends now.
Hey, this is what it's all about. We're opening up to our lives a little bit. Okay. So this is what I find fascinating with this thing. And so when I was an activist, right? When I was in the forest hugger thing, like one of the things we were willing to do was go to jail, right? Like we were willing to get arrested. We knew what we were doing. We had researched our laws. We had taken into consideration this thing, and we had gone and we'd done our action, and we had gone and done the thing. What I've noticed lately, and I watched this documentary about the January incident this year, was a lot of, and this is why I'm asking you this, is a lot of people seem to not understand the consequences of this lower dimensional realm. Like one of them is fear of their system, because it can be very brutal, right? And so where I bump into it, like with the car thing the other day, like I know this, like, but it's not even worth my time on that level. Like
right, me going and locking myself to an old growth redwood tree. Well, that's definitely a metaphysical question. So what I wanted to just stick with for a minute here is this thing of, if we're talking about a fictitious system that's turned us into creditors and debtors and all of this stuff, and the birth certificate, which I'll argue is a fictitious piece of paper that we've allowed to be used, that they've used as idolatry, what exactly are we trying to get free of in this lower dimensional realm? Is it just debt, or is it? Well, for me, it's, I mean, debt is one thing, and it really weighs on you, and it really is annoying. And, so for me, it really depends how you feel. Some people are fine. Maybe they have a lot of money. They don't care. But for me, it feels very parasitical at this point. Like I want to get them off of me.
Sure.
Like I got a toll bill that I didn't, you don't even know when you're going to get these things, right? So I get a bill, and the tolls are $6 and the fees are $45.
Sure.
And so listen, I had someone dissect the bill with me, right? And on the bill is all this fraud right on the bill. Because all the fraud is under the Consumer Act of, Section 15. The Consumer Acts, the Truth in Lending Act. And almost everything is in that one section of the law that can remedy a lot of this. So for me, it's like, get the fuck out of here. And I will write an affidavit and like, get the fuck off of me.
I know, I get where I think for me, I'm just trying to dig down and this is where I think that we talking to this thing about the truther community and this whole thing. There seems to be like kind of a couple things going on from what I can tell. There's those that are fully complying with it, right? Like they're just part of the fraud, so to speak. Like they're just going about their business, doing their thing, whatever. They'll sauce up, they'll do this, they'll pay their bills, they'll do their whole thing. And then there's another group. So for them, right, those people, I don't even think the system exists. The Matrix doesn't even exist. They're NPCs, non-participating characters, right? Then there's this other dimension of it, which is this whole, when I hear the word law, right, where does that stem from? And I might be asking a question you're not prepared to answer, because it's a deeper, like, where does this concept originate from?
I don't know.
These are binding laws.
I don't know. I think up until 1871, when we became a corporation, the people were, and I haven't done enough research, but we were freer. And that's, like we were living under common law. And they moved us into this commercial realm of statutes, codes, and now it's color of law. And it's like slave. It's a strangling. Don't you feel strangled sometimes. And you know what, Amish, you have a different level. I wasn't raised with a lot of God in my life, and I'm now finding God now. So you may have a different level of God in your being than I have, you know? So we may just
Well, I don't even
not, you know what I mean? I don't know how to, you know what I mean? We have a different take on how God works within us. I feel
fair enough. Fair enough. That makes
that maybe when God within me is saying, expose the truth, free yourself. To me, this, like, I need to do this as part of my spiritual experience.
Sure. No. I when I look at it, right, it totally makes practical sense to me on a level. I get where you're going with all this stuff, because I think that that's what we need to do as humanity, is throw off the bondage of the money changers, so to speak, because from what I can tell, we've reached the end of the credit line, right? If we go back to what you were saying, they've turned us into
the debtor.
We're the debtor.
We're slaves. We are slaves.
But but from what I can tell, the bills come due, right? Like the bills come due on their fiat currency system, right? So we're at the crossroads where their final move on the system would be, we're trying to cash the final check here, right? Like get all the money out of the bank. But so let's call 2000. What year? 2000. What year is this?
2021.
2021. I fully don't even know anymore.
I wish it was 1870.
But then like, it's funny when you bump into like, so when they have the big battle of where the Magna Carta gets hooked in, Abencourt, is it Abencourt? It's slipping my thing. Anyway, when the Magna Carta comes into thing, it basically ends feudalism and this whole thing. And common law gets basically codified in the Magna Carta, right? Which leads us to here is what I see going on is what you said, is like they transition the bill. They made us the creditors and the debtors. I get so confused with that.
Debtor.
I forget which one we are.
They made us the debtor, but we are the creditor. Yes.
Because as the creditor, right? If we're the creditor, that's our divinity, from what I see. Like, right? Yeah. We were put here as divine beings. We are the creditor. The system is the debtor, of the people, by the people, for the people. That's why the Constitution's kind of very interesting. And then they flip. I get it. They did the big switcheroo, dude. And now they go, you're now the debtor, we're the creditor. And so if I'm,
and all they are is debt collectors, by the way. They don't do anything.
No, I
get allowed in all these parasitic lawyers, and it's all a parasitic system that feeds on itself. So we shouldn't have to use these third party. They're third party debt collectors. Is what they all are.
Where I'm 100% on board with what you're doing is to cut off their fuel supply.
Exactly.
But what am I now? Let me ask you this, and this might go back to metaphysical, but this I think applies to your thing. If we're being the debt to their credit system of interest-bearing currency and the fraud being perpetrated through this minutia. From what I can tell, they've run out of credit on our souls. So they're looking, from what I can tell, they're looking to cash in their chips right now, which would be what's going on now with the sauce, so to speak, is like, all right, we need our interest-bearing hustle doesn't work with this many souls. So we need to cash in our chips and cash out and reset the system ultimately and start over again and try to trick us to
exactly. That's what I think is happening.
Okay, so we're on the same page with that.
Yes, I feel like, and again, listen, one thing I was always really bad with is my finances. I'm no banker. I don't understand crypto. I don't understand it all. So I'm just speaking from my own, sense of what's going on. I think the jig is up and they gotta change it real quick.
Yeah, because from what I can tell, from this side of the thing is
Because it's so fraudulent. And people are catching on. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was asking you about, this thing of what if the folly of the truther thing, right? And again, I've watched this with the Patriot thing over the last year. Is the Patriots have not operated in their sovereignty, right? They've operated and still by validating the broken system and said, no, we don't acknowledge your authority anymore. So we don't even need to like attack you anymore. What they did in January, right? The Patriots did was actually give validity to the very thing they said was invalid by acknowledging it. Like as a human being, like the most powerful thing I can do as a human being, if I don't want to engage with you, is to just ignore you, right?
Yeah.
Just to walk right on by and you don't even exist, right? And so what I think almost where I like having this conversation with you, because you're in the paperwork side of this thing, pushing back on it, is from two different perspectives of going for the same end. Is, are we not in risk of propping up their system by trying to claim back our credit on their debt? Did that make sense? Like if they took on the role of being the creditors and turned us into the debtors when we're actually the creditors and they're the debtors because they work for us, and they flipped the switch, but they've ran up the bill so high with the interest-bearing currency because they didn't want to put any work here in this lower dimensional realm. Do we not run the risk of getting flim-flammed back into the thing again right now?
Well, I think whatever they're going to do, it's going to stay in the commercial. And I think the work that I'm doing will work in any system that they have for us. Because too many people, in my opinion, aren't awake to the shit anyhow. So this is like for the very few.
Fair enough.
We're having very few.
Well, that's the point.
You start doing this work, you got to be, to really get it done, you have to invest a lot of time. Most people won't do it. They won't do it.
Sure.
That's why they get away with everything they do, because people won't do it.
Yeah.
It's like everything else you talk about every day.
No, I get that.
Show up.
Well, that's what I find is so fascinating.
And I am. So bye.
And therefore there you go. Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna work. I just got to keep doing the work. So if someone else doesn't want to, well, you won't reap the benefits. I will.
No, okay. That's so
That's all.
No, I get that. I get it. This is very like what I describe this thing that you're doing and we're talking about. It's very much trying to hold a thought that is a glass full of water without a glass, right? It's very much trying to hold this water in the center of as an idea, right? It's very fluid. There's no container for it. And what I find interesting is that's what I find interesting now that I really hit that because
well, once you start doing it, Hamish, the dots do connect. Believe me, I'm learning as I go.
Totally makes.
At the beginning, I couldn't understand how any of it connected to anything.
It's not even I don't even know if it's the connect. I'm just where I still bump into it is I'm like, from my limited perspective here, it's so fascinating to have just talked to the kid who grows the community gardens in Seattle on this one. Like when we get down to it, what are we really doing here? what
No.
is going on? Yeah, like I get it. Like we're doing it. We're showing up. We're doing it.
Believe me, it's not like the fun time I'd like to be having.
It's well, but it is kind of because
But when they put a war in front of us, you kind of have to do something.
well, that's what I've always understand what wars are is
It's
cashing in the debt checks, right? So from what
like,
I've
I'm
always
just trying to
understood,
get out of Dodge.
well, what I've always understood, or not always, what I've come to understand what wars are is us cashing in is the whatever they are, cashing in their debt, exchanging their if we are corporations under the birth certificate and those birth certificates have accrued debt, right, as debtors, when we go to war, we're cashing in debt chips on these planes of field, which is these soul lives, which the debt's cashed into metaphysical energy that traps them in the lower dimensional realm, blah, blah, blah. But so it seems to me like the concept of that there's so much debt right now, right? If you look at what was going on, let's say World War II, if that allegedly occurred, is
6 million.
It's the magic number, right? And
6 million Jews.
well, that's not Stalin, that's not all of these other entities that were cashing in debt at that time, right? And you look at that level of debt cashing, right? So all those people were according to the system we're talking about, birth certificates that accrued debt on the back of their life force, if you will, right?
It's actually not debt, it's unlimited credit. You're using the wrong
unlimited. They've whatever their credit, they crashed in their credit check, which is metaphysical. They went in and had a big, they went in and cashed in their credit chips during World War II. And so here we are in 2021.
Yeah.
And we can't, no one will stand for this big thing. And one of the things that going back to your original thing, it has to be voluntary, right? You have to have these people willing to put on uniforms and walk over there and do what they do because of nationalism or whatever it is. Like, I'm going to cash in my debt chip, dude. And so you live in this time now where like, this seems to be the same thing that's going on, except being they use the same language and verbiage of like, the enemy and we're fighting for this and we got to be together and the whole thing. And it seems like that's what's going on is they're doing a big.
Well, I think, like they said, nothing new under the sun, Holocaust happened. And then, here my friends are, why would they do this to us? I'm like, what happened to never forget? Like it was drummed into our brain in school. What happened to never forget? Never forget. So, what else is new, right?
Yeah.
Like, and don't forget, they have to kill off the elderly, pensions, and listen, some of these, this cattle, they're expensive. They have to get rid of them.
No, that's what I'm getting at is there's a
they got to get rid of a lot of people because they can't afford they need to get rid of them. Like it's like putting a cow, it's time to eat the cow.
That's sort of like it's very interesting having this conversation.
They're not going to eat me.
We're going to the same goal in two different ways, right?
It's the same ending. It's the same ending.
The same ending, which I find very fascinating because it goes back to the original premise of why the truther thing is spinning out is because their usefulness has played out. Like they can't hide the truth anymore, right? The one of the big blockers I think of the truth movement was, and I take this from a spiritual perspective, is one of the dudes who freed more souls to find God, Jesus Christ, whatever, was Eckhart Tolle, right? Eckhart Tolle was like basically like Walmart.
He was on Oprah all the time. He was
Walmart spirituality. The only line that you needed to get from Eckhart Tolle, if this is the only line you got, is there's no need to learn anything on your spiritual journey from anyone except to realize that you are consciousness, right? Which is I'm paraphrasing. He basically said, you don't need a guru, you don't need to teach, you don't need to read a bunch of books. You just have to realize that you are right now. And so what I find interesting with that, see, dude, that thought just slipped out of my glass of water, dude.
It's okay, dude. I
get
say
it
dude
now.
all the time now too.
It's very interesting. Dang, dude. I had something. I had it. That's when I know that's where I know the thing with the walls that are inserted in our mind from the food and the fluoride and all that stuff is just what happened. Like when we were trying to reclaim our divinity, it's like we have these built-in like firewalls, man. So let me do this, Laurie. I think that we need to circle back and do this some more.
Yeah, I would love to. I hope people find it, you know, listen, I'm passionate about it because it's our ticket to freedom. We have remedy. It's empowering. It's empowering. And it's put my brain to more use than it's used in a long time. And I have a kind of a gratefulness to the fact that I found something that I'm good at.
Well, there you go. That's and again, that is the divinity of it all, right? Like,
and I didn't know I had it in me. I had no idea.
So let's do this. Let's circle back and do this in like another week.
Okay.
And because I have to marinate on what like this exchange has kind of opened up a door in the behind my left eye. I can't really tell what it is, but I can feel it, if you know what I mean. And so I feel it.
If I could part with this.
Yes.
If you want to take up the fight to do what I'm doing,
yeah,
go look at the pictures of the CEOs. You know, those board of directors. Go look at their pictures, and you'll want to do the work because you're just like, get the fuck out of here. Look at you.
On that note,
if you want to be inspired, go look at their pictures, and you want to give them a big fuck you. How's that?
Yeah, we like that. That's
you're gonna be like, you're fucking controlling my life. No, I don't think so anymore.
No, this is a thoroughly enjoyable conversation. I like this kind of a conversation, and can maybe do this. Why don't we give some? So for me, one of my gateway people to this kind of stuff was Jordan Maxwell. And maybe throw out a couple people that people can look up into and tune into that might help them get up to speed. So
I have a great guy that will do work. Now listen, these people get people out of jail. I mean, I'm talking, from little shit to big shit. A lot of people are dealing with CPS. This work is so urgent because they can avoid, you gotta nip this shit in the bud.
Yeah.
And absolutely. They're not doing it. That's a whole nother conversation. People have to take responsibility. They're serving their kids up to the courts.
Well, okay. So give.
It goes for every single thing that is happening in every one of us. If you want, I'll dissect a toll bill. And
all right, let's do that. How about we do that next time? How about we come and we dissect that toll bill?
It's unbelievable.
How about we dissect the toll bill and I'll bring my paperwork back from my speeding case I won the other day.
The only thing is we'll have to talk behind the scenes because the affidavit on that is a lot
I got you. But how about this?
But I can show you how corrupt it is and how easy the remedy is.
Gotcha. How about you throw out some recommendations so people can get up to speed a little? Is there any channels that you would recommend watch? There
was someone great. Well, there's Derek Gonzalez on Facebook. There's a guy. There was someone great today, Hamish, that I was listening to. He has a 3-hour show. I just found him for the first time. I'm gonna have to let you post it in maybe your tomorrow's show. He does a 3-hour show talking about all of this.
Okay.
A lot of the secure creditor world, they stay very, because you got to be careful. You move in silence.
No, I think what I'm getting more at is the overlying principles of what we were talking about. Like,
I listened to someone great today, and he was like the best one I've listened to. The Moors got it down. They got it down. The indigenous people got it down. But I will send you a couple. I don't have them in front of me, and
okay, all right. Well, I think just from what I'm going to throw out, I like Jordan Maxwell's a good primer. He's been out doing it with. I think he lives right over here, so if he's still alive, I
don't really listen to any of the like the old timers, because I'll tell you, when I dove into this, I found mentors. So I've been using like
no. I'm more meaning as more like. People need starting points, right? Like it's the old timers are good because
Tom Barnett in Australia.
Tom Barnett, all right, Tom Barnett.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same. I mean, it's slight, it's a little different, but the concepts. Tom Barnett's great.
Okay, awesome. So there you go, Laurie.
And Jordan Derek Gonzalez on Facebook.
And I always recommend Neil Kramer. He's always about the empire. But so. With that, Laurie, I thank you for coming on tonight. We'll circle back in like a week and dissect some traffic tickets.
Well, and if people want to, we'll try to help people out. But you can get out of toll bills. I mean, like
let's do it. Let's do a baby step for people.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So we'll see you next week, Laurie.
All right. Take care.
Awesome.
Bye,
have a beautiful evening.
Thanks for having me.